Part 14. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jung Word. Chapter 131. Chapter 131. If you don't mind, come and rest on my bed. Why is this licking dog turning off my TV? Will he continue to talk for a long time? Why does this dog-licking guy bother me watching TV series even if he doesn't care about anything else? You have to know that for a drama addict, when you catch up to the critical point, you are forced to pause. It is really uncomfortable. It is just scratching your head. At this time, Lee Baiken said in an understatement, "What's wrong? Judging from your appearance, you feel like I've disturbed you, but I don't think you are busy with anything." These words undoubtedly add fuel to the fire. MMP, what does this want to do? Even if he is sarcastic, he still looks at me like I'm a loser. Don't stop me, I want to fight to the death with this stubborn licking dog. Today, either this licking dog will die, or I will live. No, you are wrong. Sunian thought about Mo Bao's cuteness, and she could bear the tone. Lee Baiken took a few steps towards the woman who was about to break through her defense, shortening the distance between the two. Really? That's because I was overthinking it. Okay, do you have any objections to what I just said? I don't have an opinion. How could I have an opinion? Baiken, you are doing this for me. If I have an opinion, then wouldn't I be a wolf-hearted person? And to be honest, I have been facing you day and night these days, Baiken. I'm all thinking, if you get well and go to the company, it will be so uncomfortable for me not to see you. Now that you are well, I can be by your side. I am too late to be happy, so why would I have any objections? For the sake of letting Lee Baiken could leave here quickly, so Sunian spoke quickly when he said this. It's good that you think so. Lee Baiken slowly sat on the sofa in the room. Sunian saw Lee Baiken sitting down. Why did you sit down? This guy actually sat down. What's going on with him today? Does he just want to go against me? Staying with me before was like staying with the plague. Why did you sit down today? If possible, Sunian really wants to grab this guy by the collar and throw him out. I just dealt with some things and suddenly felt a little tired and wanted to sit here. Baiken, although I know that you have a lot of things to deal with and they are all important, I really hope that you can pay attention to your health. You should still pay attention to rest. If you have a problem with your body, then I will really feel sorry for you. You are right, let me sit here for a while and take a rest. Sunian. Then the two people just sat like this. No one spoke. After all, how can Sunian be in the mood to speak in his current situation? Just for a moment, Sunian couldn't help but look at Lee Baiken several times. She just looked at this guy, showing no intention of leaving. He actually slowly leaned on the sofa. The whole look of meditating with my eyes closed. What does he mean by this? Why are you still closing your eyes to rest? Why are you resting here with me? If he was really tired, then why didn't he go back to his room? Why? My TV series. Baiken, are you sleepy? If you are sleepy, if you don't mind, then you can rest on my bed. Sunian had no choice but to use his trump card. These words made Lee Baiken open his eyes all of a sudden. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jung Word. Chapter 132. Chapter 132, even if you can't follow the drama, the house is ruined. Need not. These words made Sunian feel happy. I know that this licking dog is definitely not willing to stay here. As long as he continues to stay here, according to the temperament of this licking dog, then I will be able to continue talking soon, happy watching the drama. Baiken, don't be polite to me. I saw you looked very sleepy just now, So just take a nap here, my place is very clean, so I'll just offend you for now. I still have things to deal with, I just squinted for a while and that's about it. These words made Sunian's eyes suddenly light up. This big enemy is finally leaving. Follow the drama. I want to follow the drama. Here I come, the hero. Listening to these voices, the corners of Lee Baikin's mouth raised slightly. Then he stood up slowly, under Sunian's expectant eyes, and walked towards the door. But when he just reached the door, he stopped, turned around and asked, "Aren't you going to follow?" Sunian, who almost laughed when he saw Lee Baikin approaching the door, was stunned. Follow up? Keep up with what? Didn't I just say that? You need to be with me all the time during this period. I just told you and you forgot. When he said this, Lee Baikin paused slightly, or, in fact, you didn't take my words to heart at all. Sunian, who wants to continue watching the drama. What's the matter? You said you had no problem with it yourself? Won't you forget it? What else could Sunian do, other than to keep up honestly? She finally understood that she really couldn't keep up with this drama. This man is so unlucky that his teeth are really choked even if he drinks cold water. Not only did she not continue to follow the drama, but her house collapsed. That's right, something happened to the male protagonist of the TV series she was watching, and he actually evaded taxes. The TV series was immediately removed from the shelves. Not even giving her time to download. There was no other way, so Sunian could only go online to ask for videos. After all, when she saw him working hard, she felt that if she couldn't see the plot behind, she might really feel uncomfortable for a long time. The key is that she is still with Lee Baikin. When looking for resources on the internet, I would do so secretly, and from time to time I would glance at Lee Baikin, who was dealing with things nearby. Lee Baikin felt very good when he heard Sunian scolding the male star. He picked up the phone casually. Then click on WeChat and send a message to Josu, "You did a good job this time. I will notify the finance department to give you a salary increase." After Lee Baikin sent it, Josu responded immediately, "Thank you, Mr. Li. Mr. Lee, you are really great. You eradicate a cancer for society. Not only that, you also do good deeds without leaving your name. You are an example for me to learn from." Lee Baikin put away his cell phone. Why can't this guy think clearly? How much is the tax? Why can't he abide by the law? It's a pity about this face. I will never see this face in TV series again. Why can't this guy think about it? Listening to Sunian sighing in his heart, Lee Baikin couldn't help but sneered. What's so pity about that face? The same goes for this woman, doesn't she know how to check? With a simple search, you can find out the entire process of the male star's plastic surgery. Lee Baikin couldn't help but start thinking when he thought of this. How can Sunian see the plastic surgery information of that male star when Sunian doesn't expect it? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 133. Chapter 133 Lounge. Sunian spent a lot of effort to find the resources. But she can't watch it now. After all, she is currently in the president's office of Lee Group. The people who come in and out here can be said to be the elite among the elite. Sunian knew very well how he would kowtow to his CP when watching dramas. You must know that she wants to take control of the Lee family after the death of Lee Baikin, the big enemy. If these spectators see her acting stupid, then she will have to endure it. But after spending so much effort to get something, we can't read it all right away. This really makes Sunian depressed. But after Sunian was depressed alone for a while, he turned his attention to Lee Baiken. It's this guy, why did he drag me here? If he had known that he was in the hospital, I would have disturbed him like crazy in the hospital. Why is it that such a kind person like me turns out to be a vicious female partner? I am obviously so kind. But it's really boring. I can't watch dramas, play games, and I can't even eat junk food. Lee Baiken listened to Sunian's thoughts. The action stopped. He looked at Sunian. If you feel bored here, then you can go to the lounge for a while. Sunian raised his head when he heard this. Is this okay? Anyway, everyone in the company knows you are here today, so if you stay here, it is no different from staying here to rest. In addition, I think you look like you are not comfortable here. You should be more comfortable in the break room. How could I be uncomfortable if I wasn't uncomfortable? Sunian said casually. But in general novels, the male and female protagonists are doing nothing in the lounge, and then the heroine is resting in the lounge with a delicate body. If I go in, will there be such scandals? But Lee Baiken is destined not to do anything to me. If I think about it now, it's really a bit of a loss. Lee Baiken regrets it now. He cares what this woman does. If you feel uncomfortable, then you can continue to stay here. Sunian, who was getting up. I am just saying a few polite words casually, isn't it? As for taking it so seriously. This guy is really unreasonable at all. I found out that this guy is a straight man. No, he should be straighter than a straight man. I even think that the author made a wise choice to arrange for Lee Baiken to die early. After all, with Lee Baiken's temperament, the heroine might hate him that day, so it would be better to have something happen at the best time. Sunian felt sleepy after sitting on the sofa for a while and couldn't help but want to yawn. But just when Sunian was about to yawn, a senior executive from the Lee Group came in to report on his work. There was no other way, Sunian could only swallow his yawn. After all, she is going to be the president of the Lee Group, so of course she has to pay attention to her image. But this feeling is really uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable and boring. Sunian felt that he should find something to do. Lee Baiken also noticed Sunian's appearance, and then Lee Baiken stood up and walked outside. When he was closing the door, he happened to see Sunian lying down on the sofa, then smiled and finally closed the door. Sunian finally recovered after lying on the sofa for a while. She looked at where Lee Baiken was sitting. If she feels uncomfortable, she must also make Lee Baiken uncomfortable. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 134. Chapter 134. Can Boss BA taste like 9.9 instant coffee? Lee Baiken did not go back after finishing a meeting. But he stayed outside for a little longer, just to make Sunian feel more comfortable. Now Lee Baiken felt a little regretful, regretting that he didn't let Sunian go to the lounge to rest because of her messy thoughts. After all, she didn't know that she could hear her voice. Why should a man care about her? When he thought of this, Lee Baiken couldn't help but chuckle, and then walk towards the office. But as soon as he stepped into the office door, Sunian, who was full of enthusiasm, greeted him directly. Seeing Sunian's enthusiastic look, Lee Baiken understood that this woman had another bad idea. Baiken, have you finished the meeting? Are you tired or thirsty? If you feel thirsty, then I will make you a cup of coffee. Try it and see if it can relieve your fatigue. Lee Baiken was also curious about what Sunian wanted to do this time. He sat on the office chair, taking the coffee from Sunian's hand. Baiken, I don't have much to do here compared with you. I feel like I'm a waste, so I think I should find something to do for myself. Lee Baiken listened, then picked up the coffee and drank it. While drinking coffee, he realized that Sunian was looking directly at him. There will be no problem with this coffee. But Lee Baiken thought about it and realized that Sunian was unhappy and it was impossible for him to drug himself. What about this coffee? Lee Baiken tasted it lightly and felt that something was wrong with the coffee. At this moment, Sunian's slightly excited voice sounded in her mind. Haha, I can now know what it would be like if the domineering president drank 9.9 instant coffee. Hand-ground coffee doesn't all taste the same, it's all very bitter, ha ha ha. Let the overbearing president drink 9.9 instant coffee, I am really a smart little guy. Even if this guy drinks it, it will be fine. What I know best is telling lies with my eyes open. Lee Baiken. Lee Baiken was a little suspicious when he heard this. Even if Sunian was asked to harm him, Sunian might not be able to think of any good way to harm him. Under Sunian's vaguely expectant gaze, he put down the coffee cup. Tell me, what are you looking for? Sunian took out a piece of paper and handed it to him. It's like this. There must be many pairs of eyes looking at us now, but none of us have any emotional experience. If our acting is too fake, then if people outside see it, then our actions will be in vain. So I specifically listed the following behaviors. Yes, I did it on purpose. I purposely mentioned the word love in front of this guy. I just wanted to remind this guy that you are a licker, haha. Lee Baiken took the paper. While scanning the contents on the paper, the corners of Lee Baiken's mouth raised slightly. He turned his attention to Sunian again. You've been thinking for so long about how you can take advantage of me. The reason why I say that? Because it is written on paper. 1 kiss whenever you appear in public, and you must use affectionate eyes when kissing. 2 when eating out, you must serve Sunian unconditionally. 3 you must hold hands when going outside. These various regulations. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 135. Chapter 135 Is Lee Baiken so easy to take advantage of? Sunian looked at Lee Baiken's joking expression in front of him without panicking at all. Take advantage, no matter what happens between men and women, I am the one who suffers. Just take that night in my previous life, it was as if he was unhappy, and in the end he acted like I had raped him. I'm not taking advantage, but I feel that you and I have never seriously started a relationship. This is what couples should do and how to show love after repeated research. Hey, I deliberately emphasized the emphasis on you and I have never started a relationship in the words. Just to remind this guy, it's dog licking, it's dog licking. But don't forget, I am helping you solve your trouble now, not that I am in trouble, Lee Baiken said with a straight face. Sunian had long thought that Lee Baiken would say this, so he sighed deeply. I know that you love Lanmin deeply, so these things are embarrassing for you, so forget about it at this point. When she was talking, Sunian choked up a few times on purpose. I went too far. I'm sorry, I shouldn't bother you with my whims. I'd better not trouble you about this matter, I will deal with it carefully. Sunian reached out and picked up the documents on the table, then walked outside. Ha ha ha, I can go out now. I finally don't have to stay here anymore. Look at how smart I am. If Lee Baiken agrees, then I will make money. If Lee Baiken doesn't agree, then I can run away. Sunian's eyes suddenly lit up. Although I am bored here, if this guy really agrees, then I can take advantage of him anytime and anywhere. No, this makes me feel like a gangster. Forget it, a gangster will be a gangster, and he will be a gangster for the rest of his life anyway. Besides, if you are not romantic, your youth will be wasted. In addition, this guy will die soon. If I don't take advantage of it, it will be a waste. Just do as you say. Sunian. After all, you have always touched me before, what do you mean now? Sunian turned around. When she faced Lee Baiken's gaze, she didn't know why, she felt like she was looking at a gangster. That's right, she wanted to be a gangster. However, Lee Baiken couldn't let Lee Baiken look at her like a gangster. If that's the case, then I won't be polite. Let me think carefully about how I can take advantage of this guy. The reason why Lee Baiken is like this is because Josu told him just now that the old man has been telling his confidants to keep an eye on this place recently. This made Lee Baiken couldn't help but think of what the old man had said before, that he wanted them to divorce and let Sunian take half of his property to find another man. So Lee Baiken felt that if Sunian was allowed to go out now, the old man would definitely know. So about the divorce. When he thought of this, Lee Baiken's eyes fell on Sunian again. He felt that the old man was right to be worried. With a brain like Sunian's, if she really is allowed to have contact with other men, she doesn't know what kind of disadvantage she will suffer. Thinking of this, Lee Baiken looked at Sunian, who was thinking about things in his mind. Taking advantage, is it so easy for him, Lee Baiken, to take advantage? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 136. Chapter 136. I haven't hugged the pillow yet and felt comfortable. The following few days, Lee Baiken followed Sunian's regulations. No matter where, as long as there are people, they will kiss each other from time to show their affection. Even Lee Baiken didn't notice that he seemed to be enjoying it. Lee Baiken felt that since he had kissed this woman more than once, it was nothing. When Sunian followed Lee Baiken out to socialize, the relationship between Mr. Lee and his wife is really good. Seeing that you two have such a good relationship, I believe there will be good news soon. You must know that I talked to Dong Lee before, and Dong Lee said that he has long wanted to have a grandson. Seeing the two of you like this, I believe that Dong Lee will be able to get his wish. Under the compliments of so many people, Sunian shyly hid in Lee Baiken's arms. Lee Baiken also took advantage of the situation and tapped her face gently. Everyone, please stop talking. My wife is thin-skinned. Please excuse me while we go there for a walk. These words made the people who were joking just now laugh. But when he just took a few steps, Sunian's sighing sound echoed in his mind. Hey, after kissing this guy a few times, I felt nothing. It didn't feel like love at all, and it wasn't even as comfortable as me hugging a pillow and chewing on it. Lee Baiken. Hey, I am shooting myself in the foot. Lee Baiken's face darkened. How long has this free-spirited woman been like this? Aren't you so arrogant and want to take advantage of yourself? Why is it like this? Sunian, I did, but I didn't say that. I just wanted to take advantage of you. Wow, who is this? I have to find a way to find out when I get back, whose young master this is. I have to add him to my list of male favorites. Well, after Lee Baiken dies, I will accept this man. These words undoubtedly did not add fuel to the fire. He subconsciously held Sunian's hand harder. The feeling of pain brought Sunian back to his senses, and by chance, he happened to meet Lee Baiken's dark face. Wow, there is really no harm if there is no comparison. The handsome guy just now is much better than this Lee Baiken, and he even smiled gently at me. That looks like this guy. I just like this look on his face. What's wrong, Baiken? Sunian asked gently. Lee Baiken leaned slightly towards Sunian's body and whispered in her ear. With this posture, if you didn't know better, you would think that the couple were talking sweet words. But they definitely didn't expect what Lee Baiken said. Take care of your eyes. Don't make your eyes want to run away from a man when you see him. Are there any loving couples like this? Sunian. What do you mean by being a dog licker? I don't know how shameless I am when I say this. Just can't speak. Lee Baiken sneered in his heart. Baiken, what do you mean? Lee Baikan clamped her chin with his slender fingers and asked Sunian to look into his eyes. Although I don't like you, I don't have the habit of cuckolding. But Sunian was not someone to be trifled with, and immediately stood up on tiptoes and kissed him on the cheek. Baikan, I understand, are you jealous? If you are jealous, then just tell me directly. Don't keep your words in your heart. I love you so much, how could I let you be jealous of me? When Sunian said this, he deliberately made his voice loud. You actually call me a watery person, don't you think I'm disgusting? You must know that there are famous people around, even Lan Min is here. Thank you for your great support. I passed the test again and entered the third round. There will be 6 updates tomorrow. You continue to hit me with recommendation votes, and I will continue to give you another 6,000. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 137. Chapter 137. I really don't dare to think about it. Sunian is really right. Lanji is really here. Lan Min was not far away, looking at the two intimate people. She felt very uncomfortable in her heart, as if she felt suffocated. Jian'er, don't look at it. This Lee Baikan is not worthy of your worries at all. Although that Sunian is not a good person, you have done this for him, so even if Lee Baikan suffers a loss, he deserves it. Lan Min withdrew his gaze and looked at Lu Jing, who was speaking. Lu Jing, you can't say that. Baikan is regarded as my brother just like you. I don't want to see any of you get hurt, even compared to myself. I want you to be happy more, I don't want to see you get hurt. When Lan Min said this, there was a trace of sadness on his face. Lu Jing couldn't help but ask when he saw Lan Min acting like this, if I were in such a situation, would you be so worried about me? I can. Lu Jing immediately laughed when he heard this. Jian'er, your words are almost enough for me. Don't worry, I will never be as arrogant as Lee Baikan. But Baikan is like this. It's okay, let's just help him. These words were successfully heard by Sunian. Not that Sunian wanted to hear. The key is that these two people spoke really loudly. As long as Sunian is not deaf, he can hear. Sunian looked at Lan Min and the others with righteous expressions on their faces. I couldn't help but glance at Lee Baikan beside me. Hey, why didn't this guy Lee Baikan react at all? Didn't he hear it? Shouldn't it? According to the normal plot, when he hears that the heroine has such good intentions for him, he will definitely walk in front of her immediately, and then he can't wait to hold the heroine's thigh and cry bitterly. Of course Lee Baikan heard it. But what the is holding Lan Min's thigh and crying bitterly? He had read several so-called novels during his break in the past few days, but none of them seemed to have such a plot. But the woman beside him seemed to be getting more and more excited about it. I am really looking forward to that scene. It would be best if Lee Baikan dressed like a human and then hugged the heroine's thigh and cried bitterly. That scene is really amazing. Lee Baikan couldn't help coughing a few times, trying to stop Sunian's random thoughts in this way. But it was obvious that Lee Baikan failed. So Lee Baikan could only listen to Sunian continue to sigh. What a pity, I have read so many novels, so many dog-licking male protagonists, and dog-licking male co-stars have never been like this. These people who write novels are really not ruthless enough. If the authors of these novels can be like this, if you write it, it will definitely become popular. These words made Lee Baikan subconsciously sigh in relief. It turns out that this is the random thinking of this woman Sunian. Sunian's attitude just now really scared Lee Baikan to death. He thought that in his previous life, Lee Baikan didn't dare to think about what it would be like to do such a shameful thing. He couldn't help but drag Sunian away. He was afraid that if he let Sunian stay here, he would really be angry to death from Sunian's messy thoughts. Sunian was really unhappy when Lee Baikan dragged her away like this. This guy is too anxious, is he so timid about being close to home? I don't even dare to look at Lan Min. Hey, what a pitiful second lead actor. But at this moment, someone caught his attention. End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 138. Chapter 138. What a mess the heroine is doing here. Fang Yulan, why is she here? Li Baikan's face suddenly turned bad when he heard the unfamiliar name from Sunian's voice. Is there anyone else here that this woman likes? Immediately, I quickened my pace. He didn't let go of Sunian until he took her to a slightly remote place. But when he saw the expression on Sunian's face, he was unusually serious, not as unreliable as usual. In his previous life, Huo Linyuan relied on this woman to successfully complete the project. At that time, no one thought that the design of the city's landmark projects in the next 30 or even 50 years would all be due to her hand. It can really be said that he defeated a series of male designers. I remember that when I was reading this novel, the author seemed to have written that this Fang Yulan was an artist in architecture and was very arrogant. Even the male protagonist was attracted to her, but this Fang Yulan did not have any affection for the male protagonist at all. Half of my mind was focused on the building. Hearing this, Li Baikan followed Sunian's eyes and saw a woman dressed in neutral clothes. Li's group is mainly engaged in real estate. He knows very well how important a city's landmark building is. This is also one of his recent goals. Since Sunian said that Fang Yulan was good, Li Baikan felt it was necessary to inform Zhou Su to pay close attention to this woman. Sunian also had the same idea as him. Since I have rescued Wang Ling, why not continue to do something, such as this Fang Yulan? Let me think carefully about how to gain Fang Yulan's trust. Let me think carefully about all the information about this Fang Yulan in my previous life. Li Baikan, who was beside him, couldn't help but look at Sunian. Sunian tried hard to remember. Trying my best to recall more useful news. In my last life, when I first took over the Li group, I was in a hurry for a while. Since God wants me to be reborn, I must make good use of this and live a better life. Li Baikan suddenly felt a little embarrassed when he heard this firm voice. After all, he has already reaped the benefits of being a fisherman and pocketed all the useful points. Is this the case where the mantis stalks the cicada and the oriole follows behind? Baikan, why are you here? I was talking just now. I was looking at you just now, but you disappeared in the blink of an eye. It turns out you were hiding here. These words made Sunian's expression suddenly change. Why is this heroine here? If the heroine came into contact with Fang Yulan, then her heroine halo is here. I'm still bothering. Sunian looked back and saw Lan Min standing one step away from her with a smile on her face. At this moment, Sunian's mind began to spin rapidly. Now that the heroine has appeared, this part of the scene is none of my business. Then I can approach Fang Yulan and try to get Fang Yulan's part before the hero and heroine. Sunian's eyes lit up immediately. But at this moment, Li Baikan put his arm around her waist. My wife is tired, so I want to take her here to rest for a while. What can I do for you? Sunian was slightly startled when he heard this. But the next moment, Sunian understood. If my guess is correct, then this licking dog probably wants to take advantage of me and make the heroine jealous. Hey, think about it carefully, I really sympathize with this licking dog. After all, you only get jealous if you like it. The heroine doesn't like you, so how can you be jealous? The heroine's current situation is almost the same as a puppy peeing and taking up space. Reason. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich Jong Word. Chapter 139. Chapter 139 Sunian is angry. Puppy peeing takes up space. Lee Baiken almost couldn't hold himself any longer. Has Sunian ever read a book? Can he describe it like this? However, complaints are complaints. Sunian still works hard, and immediately approached Lee Baiken's ear and said sensibly, "Baiken, I know you are doing this to make Lan Min angry, but even so, I am very happy, at least you admitted that I am your wife. Look at my speaking skills, how vividly I express my deep feelings and grievances. If I really want to give a score, then I really feel that I will get a perfect score this time, an absolute perfect score." But the next moment, Sunian was almost petrified on the spot. The reason why this is so is because Lee Baiken said, "If I remember correctly, then I seem to have called you MRS 3 minutes ago, and I have also called you MRS in the past few days." Sunian. I've done what I should do, so Sunian, don't rely on me. What do you mean, don't rely on me, isn't it? Isn't this how the plot in the novel works? Impossible. If I remember it wrong, then I would be really sorry for the thousands of Mary Sue novels I have read before. Yes, it is definitely not my problem, everything is Lee Baiken. Lee Baiken, the second male lead, has a mental problem, and everything does not follow the routine. Lan Zhen looked a little pale when he saw the two people in front of him kissing me. Lu Jing next to her couldn't sit still when he saw Lan Min like this. "Lee Baiken, do you know who you are talking to? Why are you so heartless now? Your behavior now disappoints me so much." However, Sunian sneered, "Having no conscience, Mr. Lu, tell me what it means to be heartless. If you don't know this, then you will think that my husband has failed Lan Min. Isn't it true? Excuse me, what did my husband let down? Did Lan Min fall in love with him, or did Lan Min do anything to save his life?" Sunian choked back, "I'm sorry, I may have remembered it wrong, I am Bei. Do you understand that Chen's life-saving grace should be repaid with one's own life?" Since he was watching the show, Lu Jing would blame everything on her. Then why not just come forward? When Lu Jing heard this, he snorted with disdain, "You can deceive the brainless Lee Baiken with your little tricks, but how can you deceive me? You think I don't know, you have already calculated it, just so that brainless Lee Baiken can stay by your side." This made Sunian feel angry all of a sudden. You must know that everyone participating in the entertainment today is a person of status. It will definitely not be good if Lee Baiken's reputation as a brainless person spreads. This Lu Jing, it seems that Lee Baiken was too gentle last time he actually said that Lee Baiken had no brains in front of so many people, although Lee Baiken, the licking dog, did not have any brains, he couldn't do it in front of so many people. Say it in front of you. When Lee Baiken, the licking dog, dies, then Mo Bao comes out and people point at him and say, "What should I do if I have a brainless father?" I'm so angry. I didn't manage to clean up Lu Jing well today. Lee Baiken saw Sunian's angry look, but he couldn't tell that it was just pretending, and he was a little puzzled. But now hearing this, what to do if you have a brainless father? End of this chapter. The vicious female supporting character's character collapsed after her voice was eavesdropped. Author, R.O. Wich John Word. Chapter 140. Chapter 140. What about you? If you don't get the certificate with Huo Linyuan, don't you want to? The heroine seemed to have found a point to question Sunian, and the gentleness on her face was replaced by seriousness. But, because this heroine is originally a bit baby-faced, so even if Lan Min showed off his momentum, he couldn't show it off. Lan Min said, "Sunian, I know you care about Baiken, but I didn't expect you to do such a thing. How could I recognize you with your behavior like this?" Even Lee Baiken thought this was nonsense. Let's not talk about anything else. He and Sunian were appointed matchmakers by their parents, and they were even legally recognized husband and wife. This Lanzi also had the nerve to say this. Sunian, who was next to Lee Baikan, directly expressed his feelings. If you don't agree, what are you? Baikan and I are matchmakers appointed by our parents, and we are even legally married. Tell me, we need your approval. Sunian, it's really pathetic for you to be like this. If two people are together, if there is no love, it will be uncomfortable for the rest of their lives. I know that in your heart, you feel that I am destroying your relationship. But when you two are together, all kinds of things will happen. Friction will eventually give rise to resentment. Do you want your beloved to hate you? Sunian still felt that the second half of the sentence made sense. But the premise is that she likes this Lee Baikan. I don't like this licking dog, I'm worried. Although Lee Baikan knew very well that Sunian didn't like him, it was a bit harsh to hear it with his own ears. And Sunian also prepared the best counterattack. What about you? If you don't get the certificate with Huo Linyuan, don't you want to? These words successfully made Lan Min's face look ugly. You must know that the setting of this novel is very ancient. Although Huo Linyuan and Lan Min are in love, Huo Linyuan has a well-matched fiancé. It is also for this reason that Lan Min has never been able to get on the so-called stage. Marrying Huo Linyuan is the heroine's obsession. Sunian's eyes became sharp. If you want to label my Mo Bao as having a brainless father, then don't blame me for poking your lungs. Lu Jing, who is also a loyal dog licker, is of course unwilling. Sunian, you'd better have a nicer attitude towards me. Why is my attitude so bad? Did I say something wrong? If getting the certificate is nothing to Lan Min, then in Lan Min's eyes, the marriage law is nothing at all. When she said this, Sunian subconsciously touched her mobile phone. After touching it for a few times, she remembered that she didn't have her mobile phone with her because she was wearing a dress. I happened to see Lee Baikan standing next to him like a piece of wood. He immediately took out his mobile phone from his body unceremoniously. I have doubts. If I don't answer them, I may not be able to sleep for a long time today, so I have to figure it out. So Sunian dialed 110 in front of everyone. Of course, it was impossible for Lu Jing to just watch Sunian humiliate his sweetheart like this, so he immediately stepped forward and planned to knock off Sunian's cell phone with his hand. In the end, Lee Baikan kicked him away. The movement is neat and tidy. Sunian couldn't help but widen his eyes. Lee Baikan thought it would be a good idea to try and find out what the so-called heroine Lan Min could do to others. If it was possible, then Lee Baikan thought it would be okay to encircle Wei and rescue Zhao slowly. Lan Min said in disbelief, Baikan, what are you doing? End of this chapter.